So you want to learn how to use SQLite to integrate a database into your app. Well, here is some code I wrote in a previous video. This basically opens or creates a database and then adds a users table via this query here. However, if you look at the users table over here, it's empty because I haven't written that code yet. So let's add that now and then run a few queries on it. To add some users, let's add a function called add default users, very logical. And this basically has a table of function calls that it does to add Andy B, Jay Murray, and a whole bunch of users to the database, if they don't exist. So that in turn calls ensure user exists up here. And this is the one that actually runs the SQL queries to add the users in, which is right here. Insert into users, so insert this data into the users table. We're adding the username, first name, and family name columns. We're not setting the ID, that gets done automatically, and we're also not setting a password hash at this point, so nobody can log in, but that's fine. This is just for learning purposes. And the values for the username, first name, and family name we put in here. We pass in here. And then this is kind of an upsert clause at the end. That's what they call it. On conflict, so if the username already exists, do nothing. That's because we want to make sure the user exists. We do not want to overwrite any data. And we also don't want the SQL database to return an error because the username already exists. That's fine. We're just making sure that they exist. So let's run this and watch what happens. It will recompile, and then once it's done, it will run the queries. And if we refresh our view of the database, there you go. There are all 12 of the usernames that I have in the add default users function. Now let's run some queries. Let's pretend that we are writing a web app and we want to have a paginated display of all the users. So the first page will show the first 10 and the next page will show the next 10 and so on and so forth until it's done. Back to main, and we will add the code to print all the users. This is done in two steps. First, we want to know the total number of users so that we know how many pages we'll have. And that is done via select count asterisk from users. So this will count the number of rows in the user table, so the number of users. And this is where things look a little bit messy. SQLite 3 exec will execute that SQL query. And then we have to extract the count via a callback function, which is this read count function. And what this does is this: we know that the first column from this query contains the total number of users as a string. So A to I converts the string to an integer, which then gets passed back to this total users variable here, and then passed all the way back to total users here. So we have a total number of users. We can print that out. We can calculate the number of pages we need to do, and then we can print the users page by page, which is a new query. We select asterisk, so select all columns from the users table. We order it by username in ascending order alphabetically, and then we want to limit it to count number of rows, so 10 rows at a time. And the offset decides where in the table we're going to start. So if offset is 0, we show the first 10. If offset is 10, we show the next set of 10, and so on and so forth. And once again, we run the query through SQLite exec, and we need a callback to print each row, one row at a time. So this is not that important. The most interesting stuff is the SQL code here. All this code up here prints it as a nice table. So we print a separator. If that's the first row, we print the column names, which we get from here, and then we print the table row. We just print the username, first name, and so on. So if we run that, then, okay, rebuild and run that, then here we go. We have 2 pages of the usernames printed out nicely. We have 12 users. That's all the queries done. By the way, the code that you see here, that's available in the Kia campus, link below the video. The select query is very powerful. We can sort it in ascending, descending. We can sort it by first name, last name. We can filter it. For example, let's say we only want the users that start with the name Dan. All those things we could do. However, there's trouble brewing. If we continue to write code like this, then we're very likely to make a potentially catastrophic mistake. And I'll explain why in the next video, which should appear over here when it's ready. I'll see you then.